In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a snowman using TinkerCAD. This is a 3D model and I've printed this out on a 3D printer. In the example shown, I've already created this and done it approximately to G-scale size for outdoor model railways. I'm not going to be as specific about getting the size right or anything like that. It won't look exactly the same, but it's going to be fairly similar. But what I am going to show you is lots of different tools, lots of different things that you can do in TinkerCAD when creating your model. So first, go to the TinkerCAD website, tinkercad.com. Log in, create an account if you need to, and then just in the normal 3D design, it's going to click on Create New Design. So once it's loaded, you see the work plane here. This is approximately the size of a 3D printer, a common 3D printer size. And we're going to use just the basic shapes on the right hand side to create a snowman. So we'll start down with a large sphere for its body. If you want to be specific about the sizes, you can just type in the dimensions here. So I probably want it double this size, so if you don't, you see each one set separately, and the height one is here. And that gives you a sphere. Alternatively, you could have just dragged them out. If you hold the shift key, then it'll keep it as a perfect sphere. However, being a snowman, rather than going for a perfect sphere, I'm going to go for slightly elongated. I'm just going to stretch that a little bit. So it's slightly taller than it is round. Of course, being a snowman, we change the colour. The shape windows appear automatically. Just click on that and click on white. So there we go. We've got the white body. Now if we 3D print this as it is, you see it's got a very narrow bottom. It's not going to be particularly stable. It's going to be like trying to balance an egg. So what we actually want to do is probably just chop off a little bit of that bottom, give it a nice flat base. So there's a couple of things we could do. One, we could take a cylinder and we could give it a base to stand on. So that's roughly the right place. So for instance, you could make a plinth and we can make this the same size and shape. And actually this isn't a bad idea when you're 3D printing, because it'll give a nice stable bottom. The other thing that we could do is to move it down and then cut off the bottom. So what we do, show this one, we just slide it down. This is the work plane. As you can see now, part of it is above, part of it is below. Now we actually wouldn't need to delete that bit on the bottom, so you can use a cylinder or a box. Box is just a bit easier because you just. So we start, when you place it, it always comes on top of the work plane. So we'll make it so it's as big as that. If you notice, I chose the one that's hashed, which is a hole, striped rather. So that means it will create a hole, as in remove parts of the object, rather than if I chose the normal box, which would give a solid object. You can just switch it between, it doesn't actually matter. So if you click on solid, then it's a solid object, click on hole, and it's going to subtract that. Now what we want to do is we want this underneath this plane rather than above it. So the little arrow there, and slide it down until it lines up with the plane. We don't need it quite that deep. Oh, what to do that? Use the square box. Didn't need it quite as deep as we had. So there, as you can see, that would encompass the bottom. Select the two together and then click on group, which is up here, and as you can see it's grouped them together, the whole has been merged and it's given a nice flat base. So using this technique you'll see there's a bit of a curve upwards, whether that's at the right angle for your 3D printer to not need scaffolding, or whether you need to add some scaffold on there. But that's basically the body done. As I say, the alternatives, you could put a cylinder around. You might still want to do that, gives it a bit more stability, but that's fine for now. So the next thing we want to do is give it a head. I'm creating a UK version here. UK, it's common to have two balls, a large one for the body and a small one for the head. I believe in some other countries, particularly the US, they tend to go for 3 balls, two for the body and 1 for the head. So I'm just going to go for the traditional one that we use in the UK. So we want the sphere. As you can see, I'll put it inside, but you can't actually see it. So, but you can see the controls. So if you click on the arrow, which is to move it upwards, there we go. So it's moved up, and you can enlarge it a little bit. If you want to keep it perfect sphere, which you probably do for the head, then if you hold down the shift key while you do it, there we go. So we've got a body and a head. And in fact, as you look round, it's not too badly aligned, but it's a little bit off. So the next thing we'll look at is how we align the two objects. So change to the top view, so we're looking straight down on it. Then up on the top right hand corner there's a button called Align. When you click on that, it gives you options for where you can align it. If you click this one, then it would all move up to the top. Demonstrate it. Bottom one move to the bottom, but the one we want is the center. So that will center it in that direction, and there we go. So now, there we go, that's perfectly on top of the body, centralized. And as you see, we can just change that to be white as well, because it's obviously both made out of snow. Now for a carrot nose. So there's a cone. If we just drop it on, then you'll see that it's naturally with the point at the top. So we will need to rotate that first. So you pick on this. If you hold down the shift key, then it'll jump to 45-degree increments. We want a nice 90-degree. You can stretch this to be whatever dimensions you want. So we can make it thinner, fatter. If you want to, you can do that. If you again, if you use the shift key, then it'll keep those dimensions all lined up. But the one thing we do want to do is make it come further out. So you can grab the appropriate control, which is this one, and drag that out a little bit. There we go. Rotate it round to the front. Again, you could just type in the value, or you can use the mouse just to drag it in. And of course that wants to be orange. Not that it will print any different on a 3D printer unless you've got a full colour 3D printer. Not many of those around, but at least it gives you the idea of what colour you're going to want to paint it, or if you might not be intending this to be 3D printed, you might just want this as a graphic to use in a game or another application. So roughly position it where we want, and then use the arrow to move it up. You see that's probably still a little bit big, so just grab it and just shrink it a bit more. And then we just move it into place. You can use the cursor keys, which is what I'm using here, so that, okay. Again, if you prefer to use the align, then we can do that again. That way we can get it exactly in the center. We can obviously only do it in the one direction. So we click on the align button. In this case, we're just going to go for that one. There we go. So now carrot nose is in the middle of his face. We can create a couple of spheres for the eyes. And again, use the shift to get these down to about the right size. We want them black. Now, a bit fiddly, so just zoom in a bit. About there. Bring it up. And here, it's I'm not trying to make it precise, just a bit of guesswork as to whereabouts. Once it, as you see, it's actually gone out of view, but as long as it's still selected, I can still move it around either using the cursor key or the mouse. There we go, that looks about right. Okay, so now when we create a copy of this, then we need to make sure that we keep it on this same plane. So you can copy and paste, but it won't necessarily end up in the same place. The key here is to use the duplicate button. Duplicate has copied it in exactly the same place. Now I'm just going to use the cursor keys and move it across so it looks like it's about the right distance. There we go. So you can see as we rotate around, then there's a bulge there. So you could use the same if you wanted to put some spheres for buttons, anything like that. But let's move on to providing a hat. So in this case, just use a couple of cylinders. So I'll create one first. I'm just going to a bit big. You can see I managed to get those exactly the same, but sometimes it can be quite difficult to get it exactly lined up, in which case just choose one, click on the other, we'll make that the same size. Or you could use the shift key, but that would change the height of it as well, and we're kind of wanting that to be separate. So there we go. We'll move that roughly to the middle. One of the things you could do is you could look on the bottom. That's roughly about the middle. And then we would, so again it's hidden in there, but we can drag it up. Now, I've got it selected here, but just suppose I've clicked on it. Now, how do I select it? One thing you can do is you can hide parts, so select this, click on the hide, there's our thing, so we move that up to near the top, and then to unhide the part that we've hidden, click on the light bulb here to show all. There we go, so we've undone once again, I think I'm going to, it looks fairly central, but I think I'm going to align. I'm just going to press shift and select one of the other objects to line up against. Click the align, and if I click the object I want to line against, that one, then it will only move the hat and not this head. Whereas if you hadn't done that, then it could have moved the head, which wouldn't have been aligned with the body anymore. And there you go, you see that it's just the hat bit that's moving. So go, just move it down a little bit. That's about right. And now, so we want another cylinder to go on top. Now, a couple of things we could do. One, we could drag a cylinder beyond the bottom. We have to drag it up. We could duplicate this, try and shrink it, and then move it up. But I'll just show you another thing, which is the work plane. So while ever we've been doing this, the work plane's been on the bottom. That means if you move your cursor, it moves in relation to this work plane, and whenever you drag something on or off, then it's onto this work plane. What we could do is we can take the work plane, we can put it on top of that. As you can see now, the whole of this is underneath the work plane. That means if we take another cylinder and drop it on, then it's on that top work plane instead of the bottom. When you're done with the work plane, you can just, if you just drag the work plane to anywhere that there isn't something, then it disappears, goes back to its original position. So again, we're going to shrink this in size, bring it down a bit. So I'm going to deliberately offset this so you can see how the align works. So I wanted to align this with the other part of the hat, so I'll select that bit and that. Using the shift button, click align. Now as you can see, there's some of the black dots in different positions. So if I click on that, it'll align the larger cylinder to the smaller one, which is not what we want. So if we click that, then it's going to align against that. No, click the wrong one. Try that again. Line against that. There we go. And then against that one. Okay. There we go. To make it slightly taller, slightly shorter, feel free to do that. And of course we want these to be whatever colour you want, and chose a black hat. And you can group these together at this point if you wanted them to stay together. In fact, at this point, I think I'll group everything together. That means that I won't accidentally change any of these other bits. So it's on here, the group button, and this has become one group. However, you'll notice that the colour is gone. It's just gone to one single colour, which is how it's going to look 3D printed, but it's quite nice to see if you want to choose the colours. To do that, click on solid, and as well as the different colours you can choose, you see in the bottom there's a choice for multicolour, and there we go, we've got our colours back. So next thing to do is to give him some arms. Again, everything's just using basic shapes here. We'll just use the cylinder again, make it nice and about that size, make it a bit longer, make it a little bit forward and forward. Now we'll go for a brown stick. So in this case we're going to want it angled outwards, but we're not going to go for an exact angle. How about that? Yeah. And then move it into position. Bring it up. There we go. Just put it roughly about the middle. Close enough. Then if you wanted some little bits, stick it off it again. So I'll just type it in here manually. Route this the other way. So we can either just waddle it around. We could align it like that. And it on. There we go. Now move it. Now we know it's aligned along that axis. The y-axis, we can just use the cursors to move it along the x and go back to using this to move it on the z. That's probably a bit big, so let's just go it down a little bit. There we go. Always keep moving around because it's very easy to accidentally move something on the wrong plane and then not be able to get back to it. So let's duplicate that. Rotate the new one that way and then just move it. So we'll go where I want to. Angle it down a little bit more. There we go. So now he's got a bit of a stick for his arm. Group those together. And to make the stick for the other side, we can just duplicate and then flip. When you choose flip, it gives you the options. If you click on that one, it flips it that way. And then use the cursor keys and you'll keep it live. If you don't want to use the cursor keys, you can also move it with the mouse. You see it moves in two planes then, but if you hold down the shift key, that'll make sure it only moves in the one that you're primarily moving in. There we go. Have a look around. And just group all that together again. And there we are. It's remembered the multicolour setting from before, so one snowman. One more little trick to show you, because I made it hollow because I wanted to be able to, say, put an LED inside it, light it up. So going to use the sphere mainly, just to hollow out a nice sphere in here. There isn't one that's already as a hole, so we take a solid one, convert it into a hole, and we sort of put it inside there. Problem is, you can't see it. You could make that invisible, as we did before, hide it, but then that doesn't really help with the positioning of the hole either. So one other nice little feature is if you go into the colour of the snowman object, click on solid, there's a transparent option, and now you can sort of see through it. So it's basically showing a wireframe with a little bit of shading of the main object, and then you can see the sphere inside. you can zoom right inside, and then we can grab hold of that and then pull it till it looks about the right sort of size. I mean, one of the difficulty things here is picking the right object. I just find it easy if you zoom inside. While I'm doing it, I'm accidentally clicking on the thing, so if I just move it manually. I'll make sure you use these. So I want to get it. Oh, so as you can see, when it starts to touch through the sides, then it goes a different colour so that you can see. Stretch it, move it down. Just want the hole to go all the way through, and then stretch it back up again. So you can roughly gauge the thickness. If you wanted to do this more accurately, you could have remembered the size of the outer object and made this approximately the same size, and then shrunk it a little bit. But really, this is accurate enough. If all I wanted to do is create a hollowed out hole, just stretch it. So that's already set to a hole. So if I just group it, then it'll actually put that hole in. We're still in transparent mode, so if I put that back in solid, what you can do is, if you look from underneath, you can see there's a hole in there. Not only that, as you zoom in, you will go inside, and then we can have a look at what it looks like inside. So sometimes it's a bit of a guess for you. Right, so okay, so if we go inside, you can see about. That's it. Now, if that effective is a complete model, last thing we need to do, give it a name. TinkerCAD just comes up with some really strange generated names. I've already got one called Snowman, so I'll call this a new Snowman. Now you can just click export if you want to download it as a STL file that you can use for 3D printing. You could send it direct to a 3D printer company. One of the things is with 3D printers, if you've got any experience, is that sometimes it might be unstable. It's good to have a nice solid base and things like that. So you can always add shapes if you want to help with 3D printing. For instance, if the scaffolding, I found out problems with the scaffolding, wasn't stable enough. So one of the things I've done when I 3D printed mine, just pick bits of shapes and give it a nice wide base so that it gives a bit of stability. Then print it like that. If you add the scaffold option in your 3D printer, then this will be printed quite strong, and it'll give it stability while it's printing, and then it'll just have the scaffold bit there which you can remove quite easily. I did have problems with it tipping over, and simple solution to that, I just put put some spheres around. Make sure they're close enough to the model that if you turn on the print bed adhesion option, it adds some extra rafting that's easy to remove. If you put these shapes here, then it'll go around these and it'll make a nice stable base. All depends on your 3D printer. If you want to just try 3D printing it and see if it works, but if not, then there's a few little hints that may help. I'll just remove those for here, and I think that's it for now. So gives you some idea how you can just put some shapes together. You saw that how you can hide and unhide. Use the group option to group them together. Remember, if you use a hole to remove parts, then when you do the group, it actually takes those parts away. One thing to bear in mind is if you take something off and then add something on, then whichever's the last one to be added to the group will be the one that dominates. So for instance, if I'd made this hole and then put these sticks in for the arms, the sticks would be protruding inside the hole, whereas by leaving the hole until the last, it's removed all those. Ungroup if you want to ungroup something to edit it. Remember the line option to make it easier to keep objects in alignment, otherwise you're spending a lot of time moving it backwards and forwards. And the flip is like a mirror action. Flipped it, so instead of pointing to the left, it's pointing to the right. Helps us gain a bit of symmetry without having to again work out the exact angles and things like that. We did use the work plane briefly to move the work plane so that we could use that. So as you can see, we've used quite a few of the different features within TinkerCAD that can be really useful. And so even though this is quite a simple object and it's only taken a short period of time to create, we've got to have a bit of experience with quite a few different features. So hopefully you found that useful. If you did, then please click like, leave a comment, and if you'd like to see more of these, then click subscribe on YouTube and see some of my future designs. Okay, thanks for watching.